Aloe Blacc sur PUREchannel pour l'album Good Things. Thanks, Aloe, for being with us. Should I call you Nathaniel? I don't know what you prefer.
Aloe.
Aloe, okay. First times you listen, of course the music, the melodies are really intense. But once you get into the lyrics, there's a very huge social content and sometimes hard life described in that record. Is it really important for you to make chill out and groovy music, but to get into the subjects you love?
You know, for me, the music has to be good. That's the first thing people hear sometimes, is they hear the music. So I want to be sure that it's attractive and infectious and solid. But once they hear the music and they like the music, eventually the lyrics will sink in. And I want the lyrics to express something about that's relevant to their life, to their politics, to their, society, something that makes sense. And I like to educate people with lyrics too. Entertain and educate.
Did you experience, with the many years you've been working into music, before your first record in 2006 and then that record, did you experience some really hard times that filled you inspiration?
There were a few things that happened to me personally and my family that were a bit difficult. And then a lot of friends and people around me, and also just the country in general. I wrote a lot of the songs during the big economic crisis. So the discussion about the politicians and the economics and Wall Street is all in the album, because these things were happening and I wanted to be someone who was speaking about it.
There's a few songs where you seem to describe how much money is important in the United States. Is it something that strikes you very much? How the money can be an issue and a goal for people there?
Yeah, I've been a lot of places around the world, and I think a lot of things are similar in a lot of places, especially when you're dealing with Western kind of countries that are developed and function off of the system of capitalism. But in the US in particular, capitalism is the culture, and it's not so much that people are working to live, it's almost they're living to work. And so, I discussed that in the album because it's something that my parents coming from Panama and visiting Panama and seeing how people live and enjoy life, and they celebrate life with music and with family. It's much different in the States. It's a little bit more separated and individual.
So when you were a child, did you have the sensation you had received other values from your parents than the people that were American for many generations?
I felt like there was something different about the way I was raised, something more communal. My parents coming from a different country, all of their friends would get together and they would share in their memories and their culture, and I was a witness to all of that growing up. And I saw something different with my friends who were American, raised, and their parents were American.
Let's switch to the musical content. Did you had also a musical education coming from Panama, or did you do all your culture with the United States sounds?
There was a little bit of a music education. I learned a lot of stuff from my parents. That my dad loves to play calypso on the piano and on his ukulele, and growing up hearing a lot of Latin music and Caribbean music. And on my first album, Shine Through, I put some of those elements in there with some salsa music and dance hall and rhythms that are very Latin and Caribbean.
How did you work, and how did you work the way it sounds? Because it's a very original and very good production on that record.
Yeah, the producers on this album generally work in a very soulful and authentically genuine, classic soul sound and style. So we recorded drums and bass to tape, and then from there we added in every instrument was played live and into whether we use Pro Tools or whatever system. But at least the drums and the bass were recorded to tape, and there were a lot of outboard gear that was handmade, and the mixing process was informed by records from the past. So the sound obviously has this kind of gritty, bare knuckles soul sound.
Is it recording on tape that gives that groove on?
The groove comes from the music, but there's something about recording to tape that helps soak in the bass and the kick drum and the bass guitar, and then add in a little bit of some hiss and ambient, you know.
Did you want things to be very natural and, you know, not full of production, you know?
I'm generally a fan of natural sounding, minimal production kind of music, but that's just my taste. And you know, when it comes down to it, every instrument that's being played on the album represents a character, and so you can hear the character of the guitar player, you can hear the character in the bass and in the drums, and that, I think, speaks a lot more than just than having way too many overproduced instruments.
There's also the backing vocals that I think are really important on that record. It seems almost like it's a community singing sometimes. Did you have that sensation of doing backing vocals to form a group behind?
When I recorded all the backing vocals, and when I put them together, I do it sort of in the way that, you know, I learned, you know, that Marvin Gaye would do his background vocals, or maybe D'Angelo as well, more contemporary. But I just wanted to hit all of the voices that I think need to be in that group, you know. And that's really the way I produce the background vocals.
Your voice, of course, is also amazing. Well, my last question is about one song. You did a cover on that record, Femme Fatale, which is one of my favorite songs, and I took time to recognize it. First time I was like, oh, that song is also very groovy, and then I was like, shit, it's Femme Fatale. Why this cover?
You know, there's a few different reasons for this cover, but one in particular is that rock music that the Velvet Underground made was influenced a lot by soul and by rhythm and blues, by blues specifically. So I wanted to give a chance to represent blues music in rock and roll, you know, so we take the rock back to its foundation.
This is an amazing record, good things. Of course, the song I Need $1 is on it, but all the songs are really well. And what's a pleasure too is it's a record that you can hear from the very beginning to the end, and once again, and it's a whole masterpiece all together. I mean, you know, did you want to do a record like that you have many sensations, different sensations?
Absolutely. You know, I feel like the album is a journey, and as time goes on, maybe the industry doesn't appreciate the album so much, but I think there's something to be said for a complete statement of a body of songs. And in this, it's a story. It's a story about what's happening I think, in America in contemporary times.
And also Politician, perfect ending for that record. Yeah, the industry can find many hits on that record. They have time to chill out this record. Good things. Thank you very much for being on PUREchannel, Aloe. It was a pleasure.